The most extreme form of bereavement is parental bereavement, and I know firsthand of this pain after losing my baby girl Milli at only 6 days old, with no indication of complication prior to her birth. It came as a complete shock to us. We never got to see her eyes, we never got to hear her cry. As the weeks passed and we were riding the tsunami of grief, those around us expressed how useless they felt. They didn't know that we too felt so useless. We didn't even know what we needed, but I knew at that point I needed to speak out. From Milli's life and death, this podcast was birthed. Little Life, Big Loss, as a safe space to talk about baby loss, grief, trauma, heartache, and hope. A safe space for lost parents to share their stories of their real-life angels. A place for those nearest and dearest to learn about our journeys and to gain a deeper understanding in how to help those who are riding the tsunami of grief. Welcome to Little Life, Big Loss. All right, live. So, welcome to episode 2 of Little Life, Big Loss, a podcast that I've created to talk about baby loss. My little girl Milli, we just lost her 5 weeks ago. And I originally recorded episode 1 to just kind of share our story so that I could kind of share what we've been through, and then I plan to interview or have conversations with other lost families. And just throughout the week, I've had such amazing feedback about episode 1 and sharing, what we went through in the week that we had Milli. And I just had so much more to say, but the episode 1 was already an hour long. So I was like, okay, calm down, Rochelle. So I just thought I really wanted to record episode 2 as a part 2 to my story and just share what it's like to be postpartum for a mum who's lost her child. And I was like, okay, what am I going to say? Do I plan it? And I'm like, I just have to let it all out. I'm having a really sad day today. I think for the last 5 weeks, 6 weeks, so we lost Millie 6 weeks ago. And I think it's only just hit me. I think for the first 5 weeks, I was definitely in shock. I felt numb, didn't feel real. I feel like everyone else was so sad for us. And I was just kind of like, I wouldn't say I was fine. I just kept saying, yeah, I'm okay, because I didn't even know how to feel. And now reality's set in. Dylan and I just went to the beach today and we were down there with the dogs, and I just was walking. I just did laps of the beach and I was just so sad. Like Dylan said to me, he's like, you're so hunched over, you just look so sad. And I just kept picturing like Millie being on my chest and having her in the carrier and having her down the beach, and maybe we would have put her feet to the ocean for the first time today. And it's just so shit. And so I wanted to just go back a little bit and kind of share, because episode 1, I basically shared up until the night we lost Millie. And there's so much more that happens thereafter, right? So we lost Millie on the Thursday night. We had a beautiful day with her in the hospital. The staff were phenomenal. They guided us through, the whole day and gently prodding us with things that we needed to do. We didn't have a choice, really. Like, it wasn't like, Millie could stay alive and just have a really challenging lifestyle. Millie, if she went into what was similar to a cardiac arrest on the Wednesday night, if she went into that again, they asked us permission to basically resuscitate her. But because she had such fragile bones, she has a genetic disease called CDG. And because she had such brittle bones, if they did a resuscitation on her, they would have broken her bones. They would have broken her ribs. And so we just couldn't do that. So we had to be guided through the day and the process to basically slowly remove her pain relief and her medications and then remove her oxygen. And we chose to do that in my hospital bed. So I was 5, 6, 7 days postpartum. I just had a cesarean. And I just wanted to note there, I feel like maybe people would have a lot of fear around cesareans from our story, and I don't want that to be the case. I did so much research leading up to the birth. We were originally going for a vaginal birth. We were choosing to be induced initially, um, just because uh, I guess I wanted to have control. I wanted to know the date. I wanted to know when we're going in. I had a lot of anxiety around spontaneous labor. And then when Millie was breech, I guess that choice got taken off us. It's not safe to do a vaginal breech birth. And so I was very committed to the cesarean. I actually believe that Millie would not have perhaps survived birth if one, we didn't do the cesarean, and two, we didn't have the medical team that we had with us. So we had a phenomenal team with us, very experienced obstetrician, very experienced pediatrician. And I do believe those two things, having the cesarean, so not putting the pressure on Millie to have a vaginal birth, and having the team with us, I do believe that that's why we got the extra 6 days with her. So, um, so I was recovering from the cesarean. I was staying in the hospital as a patient, and Millie was on level 6 as a NICU patient. And so we chose to have our final moments with her up in my room. So I shared in episode 1, our final moments with her once she had passed. It was really traumatic. The look of the way that her skin went, and her mouth and her body, it was so awful. But I just kept speaking love into her. I just kept telling her how beautiful she looked and how loved she was. I just felt like her soul was still there and she could still hear us. So, um, and then I guess from there we had the opportunity to stay in the hospital, and everyone would do this so differently. Like there's no right or wrong way to do any of what we've just been through. And we chose to leave the hospital. We were like, actually, I think we used the words, get us the fuck out of here, because we had just spent 6 or 7 days of hell, like just such a fucking roller coaster. And we just needed to get out of there. Like we were just like, oh my gosh. And then obviously we had to leave her there, which was so awful as well. It's like, but how do we lay there when she's passed away? Like, and I know that when somebody gives birth to a baby that doesn't last as long as 6 days, like they might have a stillborn, or they might, only get a few hours, they might choose to spend those days with their child. And that's so valid. Like, but we were so blessed that we'd already had 6 days with her. But leaving her was so hard, but it was also so hard to stay and see her in the state that she was in. And we had a lot of friends and family who were in the hospital visiting us that day, and they waited around. So we got told that once we took the oxygen off Millie, she might have taken one breath, or she might have breathed on her own for a day, a few hours, like, but they didn't know. And we didn't know. And I actually thought we'd be there for a long time. But Dylan had a feeling that we'd be going home that night. And so our friends stayed around, my sister, um, and and some people from our church, and they were just like literally just like walking up and down the corridor, like just praying, and just, I don't know what they're praying for, but I truly believe that we had such a beautiful experience, and we felt at peace with the decision. Again, not that we really had a choice, but I mean, we could have been stubborn. And I know at one stage Dylan said he thought I was going to be, because of course when they told us that really there was no cure for Millie's disease, I was like, no, no, I'm not doing this. Like, I'm not, I can't, I just kept saying, I can't lose my girl. I can't lose my baby girl. And so, we went along that ride. We had our final day with her. It was about 9 p.m. And then when we left, the people from the church walked out with us, and my family, and my sister had to drive us home. And I just remember throughout the day, people were coming to us and they were asking us what we needed, or they'd offer things, and I just didn't know. I was just shrugging my shoulders at it. And I don't know why, but I remembered years earlier that a friend had lost a baby, and I remember her saying the worst thing was one, she didn't have support, and two, she said no one warned us what it would be like to get in our car and drive home with an empty capsule in the back. And I just remembered that. And so I said to our family, I was like, can someone just go take the capsule out of the car? Like, we can't get in the car and that capsule be empty. And especially because that was such a big moment for me. And most parents would agree with this. Like, we bought a new car. I went to Baby Bunting. I got the capsule put in. like that's like your final steps, right? Like you're just so excited that you're going to be bringing your baby home in this capsule. And I bought the one that you could lift out and bring into the house and attach it to the pram. And man, that pram dilemma, I was like the biggest pain in the butt for this pram because I really wanted this particular color. Like, it's things that you just think mattered at the minute. And then later it's just like, wow, that pram is just now sitting in my nursery in the corner, And so we left the hospital. My sister drove because obviously Dylan and I weren't in a state to. And to be fair, I don't think my sister was either. But someone had to get us home. And so Dylan's family had also come to our home and like removed things for us. So I remember they came up to us during the day and they said like, "What do you want done at the house?" And the reason I'm sharing all of this is because I just hope that somebody might hear this and then similarly to me with the car capsule, like, one day they might have a friend going through this, or God forbid, you might be going through it yourself one day and you're like, hey, I remember that girl talking about removing the capsule from the car and how much that helped. Or you might not want it removed. Like everyone is so different. But, Dylan even said he struggled being in the backseat of the car driving home without the capsule there. Like either way, that was going to hurt. But, I guess it didn't sting as much to us having to remove the capsule when we got home. And so I said to Dylan at the time, I said, I don't want anyone to touch my room and I don't want anyone to touch Milli's room. My room was set up like for her. I had the co-sleeper, I had a change table, this was my nursing chair, I had blankets, I was all ready for her. And I knew that I had to deal with that in my own time. And Milli's room also, I was like, just don't touch it. But I did ask that anything from around the house was moved. So I had the whole bathroom, one of our bathrooms all set up. I had a beautiful bath for her, like a baby bath, and I had all of her towels ready to go and a face towel. I'm the most organized person in the world, freakishly. My sister laughed. She said she came home. She came up and visited one day and like flew up, visited, which she had planned to do anyway when Millie was born. It was supposed to be a surprise. It was a surprise. We just didn't know Millie was going to be sick. And I just broke down in the hospital when I saw her. But she came back to our house to stay the night, and she came in my room, and that made her sad. She said it wasn't until she went into the toilet went into the bathroom to go to the toilet, and I had like the adult diapers, the like sanitary pads all ready to go, and she's like, only you would be that organized to have adult diapers and sanitary pads ready to go in your toilet for postpartum. So that's how organized I was. So, and I guess that like leads me into the next thing. I still had to go through all of that. When you lose your child so early, you still have to go through postpartum. And so that was this that I'm 7 weeks postpartum today. And so my uterus is contracting, I'm cramping, I was bleeding still last week. I'm going to acupuncture to have scar therapy. I'm going to physiotherapy to put my, fix my ab separation. I'm, having, mm, yeah, like all the things that you need to do to heal yourself postpartumly. I still had milk coming out for like a few days. Um, if your milk continues to come out and it doesn't go away on its own, you have to have a medication to stop it. I was lucky, I didn't. It's just like, I don't think that's something that people think about after a birth, when you've lost a child. And I think that was definitely one of the things that kind of stung the most. Was I remember one day, it was probably like 3 days later, and I was in the kitchen and I just had this like crumbling pain in my stomach. Now, coming from someone who's had stage 4 endometriosis, period pain is awful. It's awful. And so it was just this stark reminder of my uterus is contracting back down. My baby's not here. I have endometriosis. When my period comes back, endo can come back. I've got to try to fall pregnant again. The fuck? Like, it's fucked. And that was like that the uterus contracting, and that gets worse every pregnancy you have. So it's a normal thing. Your uterus expands when you're pregnant, and once you have the baby, it has to contract back down. Some people get a little bit of pain, some people might not even notice they've had it. And then apparently each pregnancy you have after, it gets worse. So my next pregnancy will be worse. And I just I just feel for women who have to then go through this pain and this constant reminder, like as if waking up every day and your baby not being there is not enough of a reminder, but then having to have, you're not allowed to lift anything heavier than your baby for 6 weeks after a cesarean. And I remember I did a post on social media, like I had to carry my baby's coffin down the fucking aisle like 2 weeks after my cesarean. So you're not supposed to lift more than your baby. You're fucking certainly not supposed to lift. Like, fuck. It's just, it is. I'm in this stage right now where I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, what has just happened? Reality's set in, well and truly. My baby's not here. But then also, like, what did we just go through? I had a friend message me the other day and she said that she'd just listened to my first podcast. And then she said, not the one about Milli. So I have an old podcast channel called The Evolved Lifestyle. And I thought, oh, I forget what I even recorded. So I went back and listened to it today. In my recording, I talk about losing a parent who is still alive. So my parents are drug addicts. I've felt like I lost my parents a long time ago. And in the podcast, I was saying how sad I was. My friend had just had a baby, and then her dad died suddenly. And then it was his birthday, and then it was Father's Day. And I felt so sad for her. I felt so sad that she has just brought life into the world. She's so excited. She's got this new baby, and then she loses her dad, someone who she was really close with. Then she has to celebrate his birthday without him, and then she has to celebrate Father's Day without him. So she's grieving the loss of her dad, but she's also celebrating that she's having her first Father's Day with her husband. And I just turned up, I got to the acupuncturist this morning after I'd listened to the podcast. I was telling her, and she said, what did that make you think or feel? And I said, I just feel so sad because this week was Dylan's birthday and this Sunday's Father's Day. And we birthed our baby 7 weeks ago. And now we don't get to spend Father's Day with Milli and Dylan. And I was like, I had so much compassion for my friend who was going through such grief and heartache. Why don't we have as much compassion for ourselves? And it was just such a reminder for me of like, hey, what we're going through is so bad, like so bad. I hope we never, ever have to go through heartache like this. I don't even want to imagine what's worse than this. It just. And so the reminder of what we're going through is awful, emotionally, and then physically for the female body. What is she going through? Now, a lot of people have been asking us, and they didn't ask it straight away, but, are we going to try again for more babies? Obviously, the answer is yes. We so badly want to be parents. And in that podcast, I even talked about how, this, I think I recorded it like 3 years ago. And I was saying, like, Dylan and I are going to start trying to have babies next year. We're so excited to. I didn't even say try. Dylan and I are going to, start a family next year. It was never, I didn't realize how long it was going to take us. And I didn't realize it was going to be so much trying. And so, yeah, we want to be parents so much. We are parents, I know that, but we so badly want to have our babies here. And so I haven't shared yet. I guess I'm still trying to come to terms with it, but we went and saw the obstetrician about 3 weeks ago, so I wasn't supposed to see him until last week, like the 6-week postpartum fucking appointment. But he called us in early because he knew we had been out to see Dr. Ong, and Dr. Ong is the fertility specialist. So we have to do IVF now. A couple of reasons. So I have a low AMH, which is your egg reserve. Mine is low for my age. It's not low enough that it's detrimental that we won't ever have kids. Obviously, we fell pregnant naturally with Milli, which is massive. And I just feel like her middle name had the word remedy in it. I just feel like she was my little cure. And so I can fall pregnant naturally. However, if we fall pregnant naturally now, we would have to wait 12 weeks to have that embryo or blastocyst tested. to ensure it doesn't have CDG, which is the disease that Millie had. If it had CDG, we would then have to make the decision of what's that going to look like moving forward. I know that there's a lot of people in the CDG community that have gone through with their pregnancies. Some of them have children that are young. Some of them lose their kids. Some of them last longer than Millie did. They don't have a great life and they don't live very old. It's awful. So we don't want to have to go through that. We don't want to have to make that decision. No one should ever have to make that decision. And I've been chatting to so many lost parents who have lost children or have had to terminate for medical reasons. And that's not a decision anyone should have to make. That's fucking awful. So that's if we were to fall pregnant naturally. So our other choice is to do IVF. Now, the shittest part out of all of this is when we were having the cesarean and my obstetrician couldn't get Millie out, he cut my uterus in the C-section, and then when he couldn't get her out, he had to cut up into a T-section. I shared more about that in episode 1. So it is actually now really dangerous for me to fall pregnant within 12 months. And whilst I've had people say to me, at least that gives you time to heal, I don't want to hear that. Like, I really don't. I don't think it's going to give me time to heal. I think it fucking sucks. And yes, physically I'll heal. My uterus will heal in that time. And it means that I can then hold a full term pregnancy, which again, Millie showed me that I'm able to do. My body is able to heal a full term pregnancy. Thank God. But I don't want to fucking wait 12 months. Like, it's just so long. And everyone's like, oh, it'll fly by. Shut up. Like, honestly. Yeah, I actually put it in one of the groups, one of Dr. Ong's groups, and this girl said, oh yeah, I had one, they made me wait 18 months, but the time will go so quick, just hold your baby and cuddle them in that time and it'll go fast. And I was like, I don't have my baby to cuddle in that time. That's the point, right? So we have to wait 12 months before we're allowed to fall pregnant again. And then, because I have endometriosis, that means I'm going to be getting 12 periods between now and then. If I'm bleeding, endometriosis grows. So they want to put a marina in, which I hate. I'm sure one of my old podcasts on the Evolved Lifestyle talks about my hate for hormonal contraception. Hate it with a passion. I had one in 2017 and I was legitimately, trigger warning, suicidal. Like, absolutely. I went down to the doctor and I was like, you need to take this out. And she said, oh, it's only been 3 months, just leave it a bit longer. And I was like, I'm really mentally unstable, you need to take it out. And when I spoke to my GP this week, she said, before I'd even told her that, she said, I don't think you should have Marina. Like, I'm concerned about your mental health and I don't think that's a good idea. And I was like, agreed. However, Marina stops endometriosis. So here we are. I'm not allowed to fall pregnant for 12 months. I have endometriosis. Not good if I get my period, but also need my period to be stable so that we can do IVF. Not allowed to fall pregnant naturally because huge risk of baby having CDG. Holy fuck. Do you know what a head fuck it is when you have gone from trying to fall pregnant for 2 years, literally timing sex, having sex so much, doing this, taking this supplement, doing that, trying, 17 months of not falling pregnant, finally fall pregnant, you lose your baby, she dies 7 days after being earthside, and now you're told, use condoms, use the Marina, can't fall pregnant for 12 months. Now we're scared to have sex because what if we do fall pregnant, then we can't keep it, we'd have to terminate. What the fuck? This is where my head's at right now. And I said to Dylan, I was like, I need to go record this podcast because I'm in a mood. I'm cranky. I'm sad. This morning I said that I was depressed. If I didn't have my acupuncture appointment, I would have stayed in bed all day. And then Dilsey got us down to the beach with the dogs, which was so lovely. But I'm just in this space of what the fuck has just happened to my life. My baby's gone. Something that we've yearned for so long. So long. And now we have to wait another 12 months to fall pregnant. We have to do IVF. And if anyone has gone through the IVF process, that's not just a, oh yeah, you pay 12 grand and you get a baby. We have to do egg collections from the eggs, which I've been told in the past if I was to just freeze my eggs and then, use them later, they're not good enough. So we have to immediately put the sperm with the eggs. From that, they create embryos. The embryos have to survive 3 days, and you get a call to see how many have survived. Then they have to last 5 days, and you get a call to see how many survived. And then they're going to be testing them genetically, which adds another element of risk to it. So, and then from there, we freeze the embryos. So it's called embryo banking. So we're going to be banking embryos so that July next year, we're ready to go. My uterus is healed. Apparently, mentally, I'll be healed. Physically, emotionally, fucking what? Who knows? I don't think you could ever heal from this, but yeah. And look, I'm not replacing Millie with a baby. And I think that's what my doctor's concerned about. That's not ever going to be the case. Millie is always our firstborn daughter. She's always our firstborn child. She is always the fucking heart and soul of my body forever. No baby will ever replace that. But it doesn't mean that we don't want to have a baby in our arms sooner. I'm not getting any younger. I turned 38 in February. My eggs aren't getting any better. You cannot change the quality of your eggs well, you can change the quality, you can increase the quality, you can't increase the number. We were all born with the amount of eggs that we will ever have. Men's sperm regenerates every 48 hours or something ridiculous, and they have millions. Women, we're born with all our eggs, and every ovulation we have from when we start menstruating releases eggs, and then all of a sudden they're gone. And from when you're 35, I believe they start to release not more. You just have less to, yeah. Oh yeah, they do release more because that's how you have a higher chance of twins post 35 years old. The older you get, because your body isn't so used to just releasing one egg, it can release two at a time by accident. That's more hereditary. Anyway. So yeah, we're just in this, I feel like we're just in limbo. Like, I don't want to wish away the next 12 months because I know it's a journey and I know we've got a lot of healing to do. I'm not stupid. But I just hate the reality of what the fuck my life is right now. I'm so sorry. I'm aware of how much swearing I've just done in this episode, but I'm just cranky. I'm sad and I'm cranky. I just wanted Millie to be down the beach with me in a carrier. I just picture her everywhere with me now, and I couldn't do that in the beginning. In those first couple of weeks, I was like, well, I couldn't imagine her at home with me anyway. Like this really strange block that I was potentially giving myself so that I didn't feel the pain. And now I just picture her every day, being in the car with me, coming to the shops with me, sitting here with me, like what I would give to be breastfeeding my child right now, bottle feeding her or whatever I needed right now in this chair. Like it sucks so much. I've made friends with some beautiful women on social media, and yeah, like everyone's stories are just so similar yet so the same, but we all just feel the same pain, like we really do. It's just like, I was chatting to one girl last night, her baby died in January, and she said, I wish I could tell you it gets easier, but in fact, I think it's getting harder. And I believe her. Like, I know I'm only 7 weeks in or 6 weeks in. It feels like 7 weeks of trauma because the first week was such a fucking roller coaster as well. But, I don't know how this gets easier. And I don't think it does. As everyone says, you just learn to live with it. So we're planning a trip to the US. And I said to my sister today, I said, it just sucks. I'm not excited for it because I'm only going because I don't have Millie. Mexico or Millie? Like, I just wish we were here with our baby. So, I don't think this podcast needs to go for too much longer. I just really wanted to share, I guess, how hard postpartum is in general. A lot of mums will be listening going, yeah, postpartum is really fucking hard. And I know, well, I don't know because I haven't experienced it, but postpartum with a baby is a different hard. you're sleep deprived, they're crying, they're not eating, they are eating, they're tired, they're cold, they're this, your partner might be, whatever. I get that, and I don't take away anything from how hard motherhood is, but postpartum pains, your body changing, my belly's gone, and that makes me sad. It's so fucking hard when you don't have your prize. The pregnancy was so hard, and my prize was meant to be my baby at the end of it. And when you don't have that, it's like, what the fuck do I have? It sucks. So I think from here, our journey will be my GP is going to talk to my obstetrician about not using Marina, but perhaps using the copper IUD instead, which is a non hormonal contraception. So it will stop us from falling pregnant naturally. And it just means that there's a chance that endometriosis might come back, but she's like, weigh up your your pros and cons: mental health and endometriosis, or poor mental health, no endometriosis, like with the Marina. We will start IVF probably when we get back from the US. So again, my doctor thinks I'm starting too soon, but for me, I feel like we can't fall pregnant till July. We know that, but at least we can start making steps towards it. My eggs aren't getting any better. I'm not getting any more eggs. So the sooner we start to collect eggs while I'm ovulating, we take the eggs, we make the embryo, we test them. By March next year, we're going to know how many embryo we have in the bank, if any. That's reality. But I know Milli's going to sort us out. Millie's fighting for her siblings. I know that. But reality is, some people really struggle to get eggs, to get embryos, for them to survive 5 days, to be frozen, and to be tested. And then they have to implant it in you at the perfect timing, and it has to stick and become a baby. They're the odds of IVF. And for every thing you do, $12,000. This is not a walk in the fucking park. So we will start egg collections and embryo banking from, we think, November. That's when we feel good. It's when we get back from the US. We will have had 3 weeks over there, have a little holiday, see a lot of our friends over there, come back, and start that process. And they normally close over Christmas, so we'll have a little break. Maybe we'll have another holiday in February. Thinking of going to New Zealand to visit Dylan's cousin and their new baby. Phenomenal story. They did IVF for many, 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 many years. Many losses in between. They have two beautiful little girls, and one of the youngest little girl was their last embryo, and they've just fallen pregnant naturally at 39 years old, and very random natural conception, and they're having a little boy. So I just love that so much. I know that there's hope, and I know there's possibilities, and I absolutely know that Dylan and I will have a family. I absolutely know that we will have Earthside children. I know that. I guess the hard part for me right now is that it's not right here and it's not right now, and it's a long road. It's a long, arduous road of a lot of injections and hormones and waiting and phone calls and news, good news, bad news, all that shit. So I would have loved to have for this podcast to have been a little brighter, a little, but reality is I'm not in a bright space right now, and I think that will resonate with a lot of people who are perhaps in the same position or have been there before. So what I did want to share as well, actually, and I will do it on this podcast because I plan on asking the question when I'm speaking to other people, and I think it's really valuable if I share what I thought as well. People want to help. When you've lost your child, or you're going through grief, or you've lost someone in your family, or people don't know how to help. And to be fair, everyone kept asking me, like, what do you need? And I was like, I don't know. I was so numb. The first night we got home from the hospital, I went into shock and I was shaking. And I just laid in bed with Dylan and I was like, just hold me. And he just had to hold me. I didn't know what I needed. But some really, really practical things that people have done that have been phenomenal. We had a meal train organized for us. So Meal Train is actually a US company. Don't set up the donations part because we had that set up and it was all in USD. So you need a US bank account to take the money out. So we took that off, and I do believe somebody made my cousin made one for us through PayPal, a fundraiser type thing. So you can do a fundraiser for someone through PayPal. You can do the meal train. I will also say if you sign up for somebody's meal train, stick to it. Like we actually had a lot of people forget about us, and like we were fine, we were fine, but it makes you feel somewhat forgotten when somebody signed up to organize a meal or send you an Uber Eats voucher or whatever, and then you just don't hear from them and you don't um, get the meal. So we were fine, but some people wouldn't be. They would feel really lonely and really forgotten, and perhaps won't eat that night because in that when you're in that space, we weren't cooking. Like I actually don't even eat most days. I know that's really terrible and I know that it's not good, but I just don't feel like it. So if somebody was to make a meal and bring it to your door, you've got more chance of eating it. So if you organize a meal train for someone, make sure people do it. Uber Eats vouchers are a really good idea because then they just get sent to the person's phone, and then that couple can go online and order the meals themselves and it gets sent to them. We even had some calls deliveries come through from Uber, and we just used that money when we just couldn't be bothered going to get dog food. We've had people offer to come and clean our house, and there's so many things that you say no to. Like if people offer you help, most us as human beings, I think we usually say no thanks, I'm fine or whatever. I said to Dylan from day dot when we were in the hospital, we had people reaching out asking for our bank details. And Dylan's like, people want our bank details. And I was like, just do it, babe. Like, people want to help. And I know that weeks earlier, we had a friend who'd given birth to preemie twins. And I kept reaching out to her, like, I wanted to help. I wanted to bring her baby things to the hospital. I wanted to do whatever I could. And she just never let anyone help, which was so fine. Like, everyone is in their own place. But I felt useless not being able to help her. So when people were reaching out to us in the hospital, like, can I have your bank details or can I do this? I said, just say yes to everything. And my biggest tip is if someone doesn't know how they need help, do whatever is your love language. If your love language is cleaning, acts of service, offer to come to their house and clean. Hopefully they say yes. And if somebody's listening to this and they end up going through this, just say yes to everything because it is a roller coaster. And most days you don't feel like cleaning, or you don't feel like I don't even feel like brushing my fucking teeth some days. My psychologist this week had to set me a task on a bedtime routine because I was forgetting to take my medication. I've been on an anti-anxiety tablet since 2016 when my dad almost died, and I've been on that ever since. I've tried to come off it. I've tried. It's not a good time. So I am just taking this pill every day. And when I went into the psych the other day, she said, my dreams have been really bad. And she said, oh, have they changed your medication? I said, oh, I've been forgetting to take it because I was forgetting to brush my teeth. I was forgetting to take my meds. I was forgetting to wash my face. Like, I just didn't give a fuck about self-care, basically. And so she, tip as well, get a good psych. She set me up with a bedtime routine. So I come in at nighttime, I put my red light on, I burn some incense, I turn all the lights out, I take my meds, I brush my teeth, I wash my face. And just implementing that has been a game changer for me. Um, but yeah, when you don't even feel like looking after your own self, you certainly don't feel like, cleaning your house or anything like that. We've had one of our friends coming and walking our dogs 3 times a week. That's amazing. So, um, yeah, I think setting up a bank account for somebody to put money straight into their bills account. Just do that. Get people to put money into their bills account. Set up a meal train. Somebody bought us a ridiculous flight center voucher, hence the USA trip, because we were just going to go to Bali, and then when we got this amazing gift voucher for flight center, we were like, okay, let's go to the US because Dylan's wanted to go for so long. Come and clean their house. We've had people do calls deliveries and just message us and say, hey, there'll be a delivery at your door at 10 a.m. What else? Like, obviously, all of the thoughtful presents have been divine. Like, all of our, little, all these are so beautiful. But if you want to do something practical for someone, those are the things that have been really, really good for us. Remembering when a woman is postpartum from a cesarean, she can't drive. So again, I didn't have my baby and I couldn't even fucking drive myself to the doctor. So I had to have people being my taxi and driving me around and waiting. And it's been a journey. And I love my freedom. I love my car. I love, being able to just jump in the car and go. This book is amazing. Imagine Heaven. It's so nice. You can read about what it's like for your babies to be up there. It's about near death experiences and how many people have had the same experiences. And yeah, they're interviewed in here. I had somebody buy me a grief journal. So if you like writing, this is a really good one. It kind of guides you through it. I love writing. I'm probably more of a typer than a writer, but it's very cathartic to write, handwrite. So that grief journal is a beautiful gift for somebody. So I'm just trying to give it, I guess, what practical things can you do for somebody who's lost a child and is just in the depths of grief. I probably forget half of the presents we get, but they're all in Millie's room, and I quite often go in there and I'll be like, oh my god, yeah, I love this, or I saw this, or um, everyone has been so kind. Honestly, I was going through my Instagram trying to message someone the other day, and I just went back through all of my messages and was like, wow, I didn't even. Just note that if you message someone in that first like 4 weeks, they're probably not going to remember. So keep reaching out. Don't just, like it's not just a one off thing. Like keep reaching out to them because I can assure you, I cannot remember who messaged me in that first week. I couldn't even remember who visited us in the hospital. Dylan's mum said something about Nan, and I was like, was Nan in the hospital? She's like, she spent a whole day with you. I have no recollection. My memory from prior to Millie's birth is almost non existent, and that's trauma. I, all day today, been trying to think of a client. I cannot think of her name. I've seen her every 2 weeks for the last year and a half. And I know that, well, I hope that that will come back. I hope my memory will come back. But honestly, the last 7 weeks has been so traumatic. Specifically that two. Specifically that two. 1 week of Millie Earthside, and then probably that 1 week after organizing the funeral. That was so like it's just not something anyone should ever go through. So I hope this podcast has been helpful. I hope that, as I go through and I start to have conversations with people, I figure that they're going to be somewhat similar, but also very different. The things that I feel were really helpful for me, maybe not helpful at all for others. I know that when we first got home, we just said to people, we do not want a quiet house. Like, we just want all the visitors. We do not want to be alone. And it's funny because I normally love being alone in my home. I don't like drop-ins. Like, don't call in unannounced. But where this for the first like week or two after, I was like, I do not want to be alone. Dylan did not want to be in silence, and we just had a friend lose their baby last week. I went to their funeral 2 days ago, and the husband said, oh, we just don't want anyone in the house. So everyone is so different, no matter how similar our stories are. So I really look forward to the honor of having lost parents on this podcast. It'll, interviewing conversations, however it might pan out or work, whatever they feel comfortable with. I really look forward to sharing what worked for them, what didn't work for them. And I'm really praying that it is a healing space for one, people to share their story, but also a healing space for others to hear our stories. Because I've already had so many people reach out who have lost children and just say it's so refreshing to hear the rawness that you speak of this. And also from people who haven't lost children to reach out and just say, wow, like I thought I knew your story, but I certainly didn't know it to this depth. And so I'll leave it there for today. I'm sure I'm going to have plenty more to say over time. My next episode is going to be interviewing my husband, Dylan. He is an absolute trooper. We make the best team ever. And when I was laying on the couch yesterday with him and I was crying and I just said, why? Like, why did this have to happen to us? And he said, just to make us stronger. And I just thought, you're so beautiful, like, he's an incredible man, and we've been on a journey for the last 4 years, and it hasn't always been easy. But I tell you what, with perseverance and hard work and professional help and, just constant communication and respect, we have gotten to a really good space. And yeah, we can't wait to bring another a baby Earthside. We can't wait to have Millie's siblings. Good day. I'm gonna go finish my glass of wine. Dylan said nobody drinks red wine at 3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. I was like, I do. I'm sure you all do too. Thank you again for listening. I love you all. I appreciate your support, your love, your messages, your gifts, your prayers. I love receiving messages like that Millie was in the sky tonight when it's bright pink, or um, that you've seen a rose or that you've seen a sign. I really, really love that. And if you know anyone else that's lost babies, reach out to them and share that baby's name. When I see the name Millie and I see that you've thought of her or that you talk to her, honestly, it makes my heart sing. So don't stop doing that. Thank you for listening to Little Life, Big Loss. If you are here because you have experienced baby loss recently or a long time ago, I'm so sorry. I know this pain will never go away. My heart breaks with you. This is a pain no one ever expects to endure. Or maybe you are listening because you have just found out your baby is unwell in utero and now you have some really hard-hitting decisions to make. I am, again, so sorry. These are decisions no parent should ever have to make. I hope these podcasts can lighten the load just a little bit in ways to help understand what the road ahead might look like and what your options are. Remember, you always have options. It is your body and your baby. If you have never experienced the loss of a baby and you are here to learn, thank you. We want to be heard and listened to. You will help someone somewhere with the knowledge taken from these podcasts. If any of today's conversation has triggered any uneasy emotions for you, please contact Lifeline on 13 11 14 or lifeline.org, another organisation working specifically with pre- and postnatal depression and anxiety is Panda. You can find them at panda.org.au. And remember, postnatal depression and anxiety does not discriminate. It can affect both men and women, mums and dads. Please seek help from your GP, a psychologist, your local hospital, a midwife, obstetrician, Lifeline, or Panda. Thank you again for listening. I love you and miss you, my Millie.